This evening, Books and Books is very happy to welcome Ms. V. Lynn Whitfield, presenting her new book, The Party's Not Over Until God Says So. And here to introduce Ms. Whitfield, please welcome to the podium a good friend of the author's, Ms. Cynthia Everett.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone here and in the world. I'm Cynthia Everett. I'm an attorney and a good friend of the author, Miss Lynn Whitfield. I'm so pleased to be here tonight having the honor of introducing V. Lynn Whitfield on the occasion of the publication of her second book. Note that, second. Many of us are still in the process of just thinking about writing a first one. She's on her second. I don't know when I first met Lynn Whitfield. I do know some 33 years ago, prior to meeting her, I heard about her. She's been a celebrity for a very long time. As a young assistant state attorney, I'm a lawyer, so is she. We were put into these training sessions, and we were taught about how to try a case, and everyone knows now how to try a case, and you have an opening and closing and evidence, etc. And one of the things we were told that if we wanted to see or to learn how to do a good closing argument, we had to see Lynn Whitfield. Wasn't told that just once. It was several times, not only in the training sessions, but through other senior assistant state attorneys. Apparently, Miss Whitfield, at a trial advocacy seminar a couple of years before I joined the office, that was the Miami-Dade County State Attorney's Office, she had given a closing argument that was so well received, so renowned, that it was talked about for many, many years afterwards. So it was no question, if you want to know how to do a closing argument, you watch what Lynn Whitfield does. That was my first introduction to Lynn Whitfield. Eventually, I met her. I don't remember how, but I'm sure we were introduced by a mutual friend, and we became friends, and we kind of created a circle of friends that continues to this day. She's an excellent lawyer. Her experience and abilities as a local government lawyer are extensive and unique. I know many of her friends are here, but there are some things you may not know about her. She was born and raised, as I put it, in the southern city of Cleveland, Ohio. And only those of you who have not heard her speak will not understand why I refer to Cleveland as a southern city. Think of Steve Harvey, also from Cleveland, and you'll understand. She lost her parents early, and she and her siblings were raised by a very loving aunt. And I think through that experience, it taught her love, patience, and perseverance. She attended Brandeis University in Massachusetts, but then she headed south, the real south, and attended the University of Miami, to study law. And she's remained in South Florida between Palm Beach County, Broward County, and Miami-Dade County ever since. I've come to know a few other things about V. Lynn Whitfield. She has a great sense of humor, and she's actually performed as a comedian. I've seen her, and one of her best jokes is about finding single men at funerals. You know, just look for the widower. I think that's one of her best jokes. She's a great conversationalist, and she can fall asleep in the middle of one. Something to do with St. Thomas, Island Sun, and rum punch, and I'll just leave it at that. She's traveled the world, and I can assure you that she has made friends at each and every stop. She's a faithful friend, and there's really not more to say other than she's a good woman and she loves the Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, and the world, please welcome my dear friend, author V. Lynn Whitfield, to talk about her latest publication, The Party's Not Over Until God Says So.
Just get that out of your way.
Okay.
Good to go.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out and coming out this evening. Before I get started, I really would like to thank Mitch and Kathy and Christina from Books and Books, who worked with me to ensure that this evening would indeed happen. I will also be thanking Evelyn Greer and when she gets here for being the one that reached out to Books and Books to make sure that I could be here this evening. And then to my friend Cynthia, you know, it's interesting because I always think that people, when they read my book, are going to learn a lot about me that they never knew. But Cynthia taught me some things that I didn't know about me because I had never heard that story before about the child advocacy program and people talking about me doing closing arguments. So I even learned something this evening. But let me just talk to you a little bit about the book that I wrote. And while you're all here, the party's not over until God says so. When you read the book, you'll learn where the title comes from because the title actually has great significance in my life. This book is my journey of driving through storms. When I was a young girl, my aunt, you know, we were poor. We couldn't afford planes, and it was 4 of us. So we couldn't get on a plane and fly anywhere. We had to drive everywhere. And my aunt would be driving, and even now, you're driving, there's a hard rain coming down in a rainstorm. And, I would always ask her why she didn't pull over like all the other people. We can't see. You need to stop. Stop, 18, please stop. Pull over. And she was like, no, she just kept on going. And I used to ask her, why you won't stop? And she said, because baby, them people don't know how long the storm gonna be here. But if we keep driving, eventually we gonna drive through the storm. And so that was kind of like a philosophy that I took to use in my life because the storms started coming in my life very early. They started when I was just 6 years old with the death of my mother. We were all, like I said, 4 of us. I'm the youngest. I was still home and, going to school like half a day. In Cleveland, they had this crazy thing where you went 1A, 1B, and you would only go to school like in the afternoon or in the morning. So I was home waiting on my sisters and brothers to come. And they came in and they were so excited. And they told us that the landlord, Mr. Costello, was saying that Miss Whitfield had died that day in Forest City Hospital. And our mother's name was Miss Whitfield, and she was in Forest City Hospital. But when he realized that they were behind him, he quickly, adults would do, he quickly said, oh, no, not that Miss Whitfield. There was another Miss Whitfield that happened to be in Forest City Hospital that died. So we just thought that was so amazing. Not that we thought our mother had died, but that there was another Mrs. Whitfield at Forest City Hospital. And she had died, not our mother, until that afternoon when we got home. And it was obvious because all the relatives, the relatives you only see at picnics or on special occasions, they were all sitting in the living room looking sad. And our father called us over to let us know that, our mother had indeed died. And instead of being sad and crying, we ran to tell our friends who had heard the landlord that it was true, that it really was our mother. So that was the first storm that I encountered as a child. Well, my father remarried 2 years later, got a stepmother, and 2 years after that, when I was 10, he died. One cold winter morning, he went out to warm up the car, and we heard a blaring from the horn. And they went out and found him slumped over his steering wheel. But they thought it was polio at the time. And he went to the hospital and he had to have brain surgery for an aneurysm, something that you'll learn runs in our family, at least for the girls. We kind of took after my father on that. But he had brain surgery for an aneurysm and lived for 2 months afterwards. And my father used to have a lot of sayings. Old people, they have some sayings, especially when they come from like Mississippi. So his saying was, he had a couple. He said, when you traveling on the bus, because like I said, we didn't really have a whole lot. So when you traveling on the bus, get off at the stop before where you going, because don't get off at the one past where you're going because you don't want to walk backwards in life. And then his other saying was, When you go to the hospital, never tell anyone goodbye. Because when you say goodbye to somebody in the hospital, it means you never intend to see them again. Well, I was 10 years old, and I didn't get to see my father because back then, some of you may remember, it wasn't always the kids could go in the hospitals. You had to be 12 years old to get into the hospital. Well, we had a friend who actually worked at the hospital, and she snuck us in one day, two younger under 12-year-olds. And when I said goodbye to my father, that's what I said. I said goodbye. 4 days later, we got the call that he had died. It took me years before I could actually deal with the fact that it wasn't because I said goodbye that he had died. But I kept going through that storm. Lived with a stepmother, actually became wards of the state of Ohio because there was a custody battle between my maternal mother's family and my stepmother, and who would raise us. And of course, I was 10 years old. They asked me where I wanted to live, Chicago or Cleveland. I've never been to Chicago but once. I didn't like Chicago, so I said Cleveland. So we ended up in Cleveland with my stepmother. By the age of 17, I was living with my stepmother, starting my senior year in high school, and she told me she had been diagnosed with cancer. Her doctor told her that she had to quit smoking. She smoked, chain smoker. Before she could put one out, she was lighting another. She said, doctor told her if she didn't stop smoking, she was going to lose her leg. She told him, take the leg, because I'm not going to quit smoking. My first day of school, she fell and went to the hospital. She never returned home again. 2 weeks later, she died. So by the age of 18, I had buried my mother, my father, and a stepmother. So, you know, one of the things I've learned in life is, and hello, Evelyn, I've already thanked you. Okay, but I already thanked you, Evelyn, for setting us up. But you know, one of the things I've learned in storms is you've got to look for the lessons and you got to look for the blessings in storms. And people sometimes think I'm very crass when I say this, but it really turned out to be a blessing in a lot of ways. I know when people say, how could your parents die and be a blessing? Well, I had a very good friend that asked me to apply to Brandeis with her. I didn't even know what Brandeis was. You know, where? She said it's a good Jewish school. I was like, okay, and they going to take me? Why? So, you know, I mean, all I do also, then she told me Angela Davis graduated from there. And you know, this was in the 70s, early 70s. Angela Davis was just getting out of prison, just being acquitted. And so she was my shero. You know, I wanted to be just like Angela Davis. So that was enough for me. But then I knew my grades. I knew my testing ability. So I said, well, you know, Brandeis, they're not going to take me. So I'm going to be smart. Let me apply early decision. So when they reject me, I still got time to go to Western Michigan and Kalamazoo and be a phys ed teacher like I want to be. You know, and I would have satisfied my girlfriend. But I don't know what I wrote on that essay. I know I said something about my father only went to the 6th grade and my mother went to the 11th grade, and all they really wanted was me to have a good education, and they died when I was young, and you know, this would be so great for them if I could just get into a good school, something like that. I wish I could see it now to see what all I wrote, but you know, I came back from taking my tests over again, my SATs and everything, and waiting on me. Mom said, you got some letters here from some Brandy Ice? Because we couldn't even say it. We didn't even know what it was really called. So I looked, and you know, they always told you, thin letters rejection, thick letter. So here it was, these 2 big, thick envelopes. And I was like, what is this? Congratulations. Welcome to the class of 1977. Then the other one. Congratulations. We are happy to offer you a full tuition scholarship and the rest in financial aid. Well, the reason I said that my death of my parents was a blessing was that they couldn't afford to send me to Brandeis. There was no way they would have been able to afford that. And in fact, my girlfriend who talked me into going, she got in. They gave her $800, and her parents told her, we can't afford to send you. So she didn't go. I went up there all by myself. So that was, in the end, when I really had to look back on it, that was the blessing of it all. So I talk about all of that in this book because it's my journey through all my storms. And those were just my early year storms. I talk about financial storms. You know, being a lawyer, everybody thought I was doing well. Everybody thought I had it going on. I was dressing well. I was driving a nice car. What they didn't know was I had gotten the foreclosure complaint for my house. What they didn't know was one day I went to the bank to get some money, and the woman told me I had zero in the bank. And I looked at her like she was crazy. I said, ma'am, no, there's got to be a mistake. Because, see, I can be overdrawn. I'm used to that. Or I could have like $1 and something. But you talking about I got zero? That's just impossible. And she said, oh, no, it's not impossible. IRS got every penny. Every penny you had in here, they told us to send to you. So people didn't realize that because I was wearing this mask like everything was going on well. But I was trying to go through it. You know, I was doing well. I mean, I was working in a nice law firm. And they gave me a call and said, we got a letter from IRS. They told us that every payday, we're to give you $500 and they get the rest. Of course, I went crazy. $500? You know how much my mortgage is? I can't pay my mortgage with $500 every 2 weeks. So I had to call IRS. But I talk about all of that. And you know, when I wrote this book, I started this book in 2006 when I first went to work for the city of North Miami. A friend of mine said, you have come full circle back to Miami. And I tell you in the book why I left Miami to begin with. And you'll find out that that's a lot of why the name of the book comes from. But when I went back to work in Miami, a friend said, you should write a book about the whole career. And I thought that's what this book was supposed to be about. I thought this book was supposed to be to help people who had gone through stuff in their career and to let them know that you can rebuild, you can rehabilitate yourself, and it's not over just because people say it's over for you, that you are able to come back and still have a great career. And that's when I started writing on the book. But I couldn't. For some reason, it just wouldn't come. Then in January of 2012, when I had my own health issue, when I ended up in the hospital having to have brain surgery and ended up paralyzed totally on my left side, my dominant side, I realized when I got well, I realized that wasn't what God wanted. It wasn't just to be about career. It was a bigger audience that this book was supposed to reach. It was supposed to let people know that it doesn't matter what storm you go through in life. It can be a financial storm. It can be a career storm. It can be a relationship storm. It can be a health storm. That regardless of what you go through, no one can count you out. You always have a chance to overcome it. You always have a chance if you just keep driving step by step. Sometimes you may have to slow down. Sometimes you may have to grip the steering wheel hard. Sometimes you might have to just wait. But if you keep moving, long as you can see, because sometimes you can't even see the white line. You know, it's raining so hard. But all you have to do is go on feeling sometimes. But if you keep going, eventually you're going to come through the storm and you're going to come onto the other side. I just want to read you a couple of excerpts from it real quick. From the introduction. There's a television show called Wipeout. The contestants compete against each other on an obstacle course designed to wipe them out. It is rare that any one contestant makes it through the entire course successfully. To get through the obstacle course, the contestants have to utilize coordination and all of their previously learned skill. Sometimes it's just a matter of timing which allows them to be successful. Our lives are often like an obstacle course. Many events in our lives are designed to try and wipe us out. Are you feeling like you're on a constant obstacle course and you don't know if you have what it takes to get through it? Are you tired of being battered by the waves from the water feature or being beaten down when you try to get across one section? Do you hate to get up in the morning because you don't know what the new day will bring? If so, you are not alone. Every day there are millions of people who feel the same as you. I used to be one of those people until I learned how to weather the storms in my life and to get through to the other side. Some days it took all that I had inside me to just get up in the mornings and face another day. Have you been through tough times and had those around you tell you that there's no hope? Do you yourself wonder if there is hope, or are things always going to be bad every day? I'm here to tell you that there is hope for you. No one, not even you, can decide when it is the end. Only God can make that determination. God can take you through the worst of times and make you wonder what happened and how you came through. This is an autobiographic book designed to encourage and motivate those readers experiencing challenges personally and professionally by using illustrations of how I and others have overcome our life storms. As a little girl, I was taught not to stop when driving through a storm, but to keep on going. Mine said that if you keep driving, eventually you're going to come through the storm. So when the local paper counted me out and said the party was over, I kept going. I kept going through the storm until I emerged on the other side. This book will give you the necessary tools to keep going. Just like I was able to survive the many storms in my life, you can too. Once I started writing, I realized that this book had been in me since my birth. Having lost my mother, father, and a stepmother before the age of 18, I was still able to secure an academic scholarship to one of the best schools in the country, Brandeis University. I became the first college graduate in my family and went on to law school, graduating not cum laude, but thank you, Lord. After a few bumps in the road, I have gone on to have a successful career as an attorney in Florida. I've been a performing stand-up comedian, a television legal commentator, and have led numerous professional organizations. When I started this book several years ago, I thought it would be just about the troubles I experienced in my career. God showed me that He had a larger audience in mind. In January 2012, I underwent brain surgery, which left me temporarily paralyzed on the left side. Did I mention I'm left-handed? I was back walking 3 weeks after starting rehabilitation. Many thought I would not recover, but God had not counted me out yet. That is when it became clear that the book had to be completed, and its purpose was much greater than I had dreamt. This is a book about building your faith and trusting in God to get you through whatever life throws at you. No matter what I will encounter in the future, I know one thing for sure. Until God says my time is up, I will keep driving through the storms because the party's not over until God says so. Open the pages of this book to learn how I survived some very trying times, excuse me, and gained strength from my life storms and survival. You will learn that I am no different than any of you. If I can survive all that has been thrown at me, so can you. Enjoy the read, and I'll see you on the other side of the storm. Another section I want to just read a little bit from. Excuse me. You know, and what remember I told you about my father having brain surgery. Well, it runs in the family. There are 3 girls out of 4 children. All 3 of us have had brain surgery, all for different reasons. All have survived. My middle sister, Sandy, though, she's an overachiever. She's had 2 brain surgeries. You know, one was not enough for her, you know, she's trying to teach us something. So, and I remember I had knee surgery. They all had knee surgery. I had knee surgery. It's like, see? And I said, well, that's all right. Just because I had knee surgery, like you don't work, I'm not going to have brain surgery like y'all. 2 years later. Okay, so I learned not to say that. Okay, and let me just say this to you too, because it really doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. I mean, it does matter to me, but not to read the book, because I believe all of us have to have something that we believe in, some kind of higher spirit or something more than ourselves that we have to believe in, that we have to, when times get rough, we call on and that we lean and hold on to. So I think you can have people who don't have a real strong faith have told me they still enjoy the book. It's an easy read. I'm one of them people, I hate it when people say, look the word up in the dictionary. So you do not need to have a dictionary while you read my book, because I don't, that ain't me, So, I think that's why I never started writing it really early. I've always wanted to be a writer, but I think because when I was little, somebody told me I had a bad or limited vocabulary. So I think that kind of, stifles, because it's amazing what people will tell you, and it will stop you from doing stuff. I mean, and that's what this book is. Don't let people do that to you. You keep, but then I realized that I'm where I'm supposed to be right now, I went through all this to get to this, okay? So, if it had not been, every chapter does start with a Bible verse, though. If it had not been for the Lord on our side. Now, I know in the Baptist church, there's a song, who's on the Lord's side, and that's real good, but I want him on my side. So that's why I picked this for if it had not been. If it had not been for the Lord on our side, really, that's all that needs to be said. But being the lawyer that I am, I do have more to say. I have to be careful writing this chapter, or I could do what the preachers refer to as preach myself happy. Truly, if it had not been for the Lord on my side when I was 13 years old and 3 men tried to scam me, and I ended up in their car under a bridge playing the shell game and lost all my money, and they wanted to play for my clothes, where would I be? If it had not been for the Lord on my side all the times I hitchhiked or ride to school alone, where would I be? If it had not been for the Lord on my side when I was driving on the New Jersey Turnpike returning from Howard University's homecoming weekend, and a state trooper's car started to hydroplane and ended up turning around, headed straight at me, where would I be? If it had not been for the Lord on my side when, after a night of celebrating at a bachelor's party, my car left the roadway while traveling at a high rate of speed and ended up in a ravine surrounded by trees on 3 sides, where would I be? If it had not been for the Lord on my side when I was parked in a shopping center parking lot and the woman next to me started shooting at someone, where would I be? If it had not been for the Lord on my side when I was traveling alone in Amsterdam, Holland, and doing something I should not have been doing, and a man tried to take advantage of me, where would I be? If it had not been for the Lord on my side when the IRS filed a notice of attachment to my paycheck for all but $500 per month, and my mortgage was over $1,500, where would I be? If it had not been for the Lord on my side just last night when I stopped into a local retail store and just so happened to be there when burglary suspects were apprehended by the police with guns drawn, where would I be? I don't know if you can answer these questions, but I can. I'd been raped, broke, and or dead. But thanks to the grace of God, I'm still here to talk about all of these experiences. Thank you.
Folks, plenty of time for questions for Ms. Whitfield.
Any questions? No questions?
It's always tough for the first hand to go up. We'll give them a chance.
Miss Everett, you don't have a question? Okay, Miss Johnson Stacks.
How did you get the courage to reveal your secret so much about yourself? We all try to hide our secrets. Why did you decide to reveal so much about yourself in the book?
You know what? Somebody asked me that too. And it wasn't that hard to write it. Writing it down, I think, was therapeutic because it was cathartic, trying to get it all out and everything. It was difficult. I mean, there's some things in the book too that aren't just about me. That I even had to go to my sister and say, "Is it okay if I tell this about you?" Because this is part of my life that you went through. So telling it wasn't the hardest thing. I'm gonna tell you, the hardest thing was once I wrote it and was done. because I really felt like I had no choice but to write it, you know, and I put in what I felt I was led to put in. The hardest thing was knowing it was going to eventually get published and people that knew me were going to read it. That was one of the hardest things. And there was a couple of people, one person in particular that's in this room. I ain't gonna call them by name, but you know that I was very concerned about the reaction that they would give to it, because it is very transparent. It reveals a lot about me. That, I mean, there's some things in here that nobody, only one other person in my life knew about, really. So but like I said, it wasn't so hard to write it. I mean, I really have a lot of courage to write it. Courage was going ahead and saying, I want to go ahead and publish it. But once I realized it's not about me. This book being published and this book out here, it's my life, but it's not about me. It's about the people that it can touch. It's about the people who will be able to identify with it. It's amazing how many people have contacted me and said, you know, I laughed with you, I cried with you, I realized that, you know, I went through something like that, and it really helped me to understand what I went through, and things of that nature. And that's why it's out here, and that's why I did it. Anybody? Yes, Craig.
What moment did you feel God the most in your life?
Ooh, goodness. That's a heavy question. You know, okay, I think actually that I can say is after the hurricanes of 2005, I was applying for the job with North Miami. And some of my colleagues, former colleagues from North Miami are here. I was applying with that position. And we were actually meeting, our church had been damaged, and we were meeting in our fellowship hall. And I was sitting there, and I clearly heard the voice say to me, I can't do for you what I want to if you won't tell people what I've already done. And I knew that was the voice of God talking to me. And I got up and I walked to the front of the church, and my pastor just handed me the mic. He didn't know what I was going to say. And I looked at him like that. You don't know what I'm going to say? He said, I trust you. And that's when I gave my first testimony and first revealed to people that I was going through financial issues, you know, and stuff. They were used to seeing me drive up in my Mercedes, and, you know, and I was this, I was that, you know. They knew I was a tither and all of that. So, you know, that's the first time I revealed to them. But what I told them was that I was standing on the verge of, you know, doubling my salary if I got that position. And that God just directed me that I had to tell them no, what I was dealing with and all the stuff was keeping me through. I didn't get the job, but they heard my entire testimony that year, because I didn't get the job. That was in August of 2005. November 2005, the city attorney that got the job called me and was looking for a deputy. I ended up getting the job as the deputy. I started work January the 3rd of 2006. January the 9th, he ended up taking a leave because of some stuff going on in his life with underage girls and stuff. And I read this book. I went to some friends and said, you know, because they were saying, well, why would you take the job? The man got the job over you. I said, look, he's 64, 65 years old. How long he going to be there? 5 years? 5 months later after starting, I was the city attorney. Okay? And it was like God said, you talking 5 years, girl? I'm talking 5 months. Okay? I work quick. That's when I really knew he was in control of my life. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Miss.
I don't know if it was just God, but I have a question. So I've been waiting for this evening so I can get my book. I haven't read it yet, but listening to you talk, I'm just wondering, am I in the book and do I need a lawyer?
Well, let me just say this. Actually, no, you're not in the book. And those who are by incidences in the book, the names have been, no, they have not even been changed, have not been mentioned. Now, if people know the situation, they know who they are, but no.
Shoe fits, in other words.
Right, but no. I'm trying to think back. Are you in the book?
Yeah.
No, you're not in the book.
Okay.
Okay? You're not in the book. No. Mm-mm. Yes.
What's the next book about?
You know what? This is the craziest thing in the world. I remember I said I always wanted to write. I've always wanted to write novels, though. Yeah, I've always wanted to write novels. So, no, it's not too late. In fact, this is National Novel Write Month. November is, and you're supposed to write your 50,000 word novel this month. But I already had to jump a head start because, like I said, I've been writing for a while. So I'm really at like almost 30,000 words now. And it's the craziest thing. It's a Christian mystery, murder mystery. Because I know murder, right? I know murder. That's one thing I know is murder. So so I'm gonna give y'all a sneak preview of what the book is. The book is about a minister who it starts out with him getting arrested for embezzlement at the church. Okay, because somebody's been embezzling money at the church, and so they decide it's him. He gets arrested for that. Well, he then, of course, because it's a black church, y'all, because I got to write what I know with the black church, and it's in West Palm Beach, because that's where I've been living for 30 years. So he's well known, he's, well respected, so everybody's shocked. But he gets arrested, and of course, the black church, they put him out. They say, you got to go. You can't hang here for no while. So he goes, and he got a couple of problems. He drinks. And when he drinks, he gets kind of a little too friendly with women and stuff. And so he had a couple of things in his past. But he goes to pick up his things, and the church secretary, you learn early, she in on the setup of him, because it's a setup. But she feel bad because she done helped her lover set him up, but you don't know who her lover is. And she ends up dead. And the murder weapon is the trophy that the Urban League gave him. Okay? So, he gets arrested for murder. The secretary of the church, who's the key witness against him in the embezzlement case. So, yep, he got motive. He got opportunity because he was there that night before she died. He got means because it's his. So it's all of that. So, and that's the first of the series. It's the Reverend Joseph Hunter series. Okay. So he's gonna be the protagonist in them. Yeah. So that's the next one I'm working on. This one was one that God just wrote this and said, you got to tell this story to people. But having this done kind of gave me the courage to finish the novels. It let me know that, okay, maybe you can write a little bit. In fact, the first time I saw it, actually in a book form, not just pages, was in August when it was released in Kentucky. And I hadn't read it through that way. So when I got it, on the plane and everything, got home, and I started reading it. And I read it through. It's a real quick read. I mean, you can read it in a couple of days, really, if you just sit down and read it. And I was like, Donald, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. You did a good job on this. I'm like, who wrote this? But hopefully you'll get it and you'll enjoy it. I think it makes a great Christmas gift, too. It's definitely inspirational to people, and thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate it. I was telling my friends earlier, I'm always scared that I'll give a party and nobody will come. So,
We like a good party.
yeah, and I like friends. So, thank you very much for coming.
All right, folks. So if there are no more questions, then a note to our internet audience watching at home. Still plenty of time for you to call the number on your screen, and we will ship a book to you to wherever you are in the U.S. free of charge. For For those of you here in the house, we have the book for sale at the counter in the front room over there. Ms. Whitfield will be signing here at the table to the right of the podium. I want to thank our guest, Ms. Cynthia Everett, for that great introduction. And yeah. And please give another hand to V. Lynn Whitfield. Thanks very much. Thank you, Lynn.